FBI Director Kash Patel and the Deputy Director Dan Bongino sat down with Bartiromo on Fox News today, and holy smokes, they covered everything. We're going to talk about Pence, too, because he's weighing in. But this is the first interview with either Kash Patel or Dan Bongino since they took over, and they dropped a lot. We're going to go through it. We're going to break it down. My name's Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, now, I understand all of us have been not very patient, right? You know, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, over the last 4 years during all the lawfare against President Trump, have been two of the most outspoken people in the whole MAGA movement, breaking down a lot of things with a lot of insider contacts. They've been calling out everyone the last 4 years. Kash Patel has been doing a lot of interviews over these past 4 years, and Bongino, of course, had his podcast and radio show, and he was just going through everything. So they got the jobs, and we haven't heard from them. And I've been telling people, be patient. Be patient. They haven't been there very long. They are doing things that have not been done before, investigating and going after high-level government officials, many of them Democrats, okay? Now, it's okay in the media perspective, in the Washington Beltway insider circle, to arrest President Trump. But when you go and try to arrest the real criminals, right? Trump did no wrong, committed no crimes. You go after the real criminals, oh boy, there's all kinds of things that they'll just, See, they think that these criminals, the lawfare people like the Comeys, they think what they're doing is right. Even if it's illegal, they're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons because Trump is, all these things. They have Trump derangement syndrome, very severe cases of it. And this is spectacular, this interview. And what I've been telling you guys, we got to be patient. They have to investigate. They have to interview witnesses. They have to take depositions. They have to go to grand juries. They have to get indictments. And the fact that Bongino and Kash Patel both sat down together for an interview, things are happening. They would not do this if things were not happening. And what they're doing is they're foreshadowing a little bit. They know that people are losing patience, what's going on. They see all the chatter on X, even though they may not be openly participating in it. They see it all. They see all the attacks against Pam Bondi. And where's the action? Where's the action? So they did this interview to let people know what's going on, what they're doing, that they are doing things. And also, I think it's, let's get ready because things are going to start to happen. So I'm going to go through this, and we'll talk about it as we go. Okay, I got quite a few clips. Again, this is Kash Patel, the great director of the FBI, and his deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, with Maria Bartiromo on Fox today.
Well, Dan, throughout the Russia collusion story and the rest.
Look, I can speak to the folks that were in our seats, our predecessors, and they intentionally failed the American public by putting on the biggest DC deception game we've ever seen. They said the FBI was the most storied institution for law enforcement, and it was. And it will be again very soon. But when the likes of Comey and McCabe and Strzok and company came in here with the James Bakers of the world and intentionally lied to a federal court only to rig a presidential election by lying to the American public and using taxpayer dollars, likely illegally, to fund this entire operation and then withhold exculpatory information from a federal court that I used to appear before to manhunt terrorists, that's what broke the FBI. And then when they were caught, they lied about it. And you and a few others like Dan and others were brave enough to cover it 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we're still talking about it today because as Congress is working rigorously with us, the Crossfire Hurricane documents are coming fast and hard.
Oh, boy.
And they're being sent there unredacted so we can have full accountability. And that's how you restore what the trust that was lost to the American public when it comes to the FBI.
Yeah. And they're all over this. I mean, now the things that they're uncovering, they'll get into some of the details of what they've uncovered, what they haven't uncovered. But you can hear the energy and the passion in Kash Patel's voice. He's very excited because this is, believe me, Kash Patel and Bongino, they may even be more impatient than we are in MAGA world because they've got the badges now, right? They've got access to all the information. They know a lot more than we know because they've seen the records. They've gone through the files. And they've got to do it right because you're going against these big-time people. And you can see that it just by the sound of his voice, Kash Patel's energized. This is not a guy who's not doing something.
Yeah, but come on, Director, with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. You mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. Right. They're fine. There's been no accountability.
Well, look, it's a fair criticism, but what I will tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years when we had statute of limitations that were still in play, where we could have investigated criminal conduct. Most of these statute of limitations are 5 years old. And we will investigate criminal conduct where we find a righteous case to do so, and the law and the facts allow us to.
Okay, now that's an unfortunate thing, what he just said there. So the statute of limitations has expired on some of these crimes, on some of them. So they're saying they can't prosecute some of them because statute of limitations, but I don't think they've expired on all of them.
But a lot of it we're precluded from. So we'll take the criticism, and it's rightfully so, that could we have done more in the past? Sure, people before us could have. But what we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. And I'm just telling you right now, as much as we know about Crossfire Hurricane, he and I just found out more last week. And we're continuing to work with Congress to put those documents out. That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process and lie to the American public.
I remember FISA, the secret FISA court that was put in place after 9/11, and Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts is the head FISA judge. He's the chief FISA judge. And they used that FISA court, is what he's referencing here, to start spying on President Trump during the first campaign.
They withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. And it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
Well, you hear that? You are about to see a wave of transparency. So what that tells me, oops, I just slipped. What that tells me is I'm very excited, guys. I'm very excited. I slipped here on my chair. I got a chair on wheels, and I got so excited. I moved my feet, and the chair moved. I'm so excited because what he's telling us here is that even though the statute of limitations has expired on some of it, not all, but on some of this, they're going to release the stuff anyway. Even if the statute of limitations stops us from charging them for any of these crimes, we're going to release it anyway so people can see what it is they did, and then the court of public opinion will pass judgment on them.
We're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
Okay. A week or two.
Well, I can tell you right now that the judge that gave us smack on the wrist, dead.
So a week or two. So that is not very long. It's going to be a long couple of weeks, isn't it? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You know, we're doing pretty good now. I mean, we got Letitia James. She's going to prison. She's facing 30 years for the mortgage fraud. They got a lot of documents. Okay, now, this next clip, and I'm going to talk about Comey and what happened with Comey over the weekend in just a bit. Now, this next clip, this is, again, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They're being interviewed by Bartiromo on Fox this morning. They're talking about the Epstein files.
So there is, as it seems that I find myself in a similar situation as Russiagate. Because on January 6th, in the prior Trump administration, I was the chief of staff to the Department of Defense. And I spent 4 years in a minor fortune litigating the truth because people politicized what actually happened on January 6th. And we now know unequivocally that President Trump lawfully authorized the deployment of National Guard, and me as the head of the Office of Secretary of Defense, with the Secretary of Defense, took that action. When it finally came in, because it had to have the governor and mayor of D.C.'s approval on it. That's the way the law works. And once it finally came in on January 6th, remember, we offered to them days beforehand, and they rejected it. We've put out the letters, and your show has done great coverage showing how it was rejected. We mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. That's what happened on January 6th, but what you and your viewers want to know, now that we've beat back that disinformation campaign with actual truth, is what was the FBI doing?
That's right.
We got answers coming. We
got answers coming. Okay, we want to know how many were in that crowd, who they were, what they were doing, what they instigated. He said it's coming.
World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. That's what happened on January 6th, but what you and your viewers want to know, now that we've beat back that disinformation campaign with actual truth, is what was the FBI doing?
That's
well,
right.
we got answers coming. We just found a trove of information, and it's on its way to Capitol Hill right now. And they've asked, and they're getting them, and you're getting answers on January 6th. You're getting answers on what sourcing was utilized, what money was utilized, how many assets were utilized, who made those decisions. You're getting it. We can only control the FBI, but you're getting it from the FBI.
Okay. Now, the only thing I'm not crazy about, because this is the second time he said that, they're sending the information to Congress. And I would rather send the information to Pam Bondi to take to a grand jury and get some indictments and have some press conferences announcing indictments. I understand about statute of limitations is shorter than you would think on some of these crimes, but not on all of it. And a lot of these lawfare people, maybe they committed a crime originally that the statute of limitations may be up on, but they've been doing crime ever since, involved in a cover-up and lie. They didn't stop doing criminal activity on January 6th, okay? It continued over the past 4 years.
Were there FBI agents undercover egging people on?
Great question.
Like I said, that answer is coming, and it's on its way to Congress.
You're about to...
Bongino.
I saw it. I saw the portfolio of information. We dug far and wide to find it. And I'm pretty sure now we have a conclusive, definitive answer. But you and the public are going to have it. You're going to see it in writing over to Capitol Hill. But I just want to be sure we're clear, having been an agent and a police officer. There is a difference between an agent. I know you know this. I don't mean to sound ridiculous. An agent, meaning a trained GS 1811 federal agent, and a source or an asset. There's a difference. So when you see the material, which I promise you is coming, again, I'm not asking you to trust us. I know it's coming because I saw it yesterday. When you see it, I just want you to understand that it's not an apology for anything.
Thank you.
But there's a difference between agents and assets. Yeah. And I just hope when people put that information out there, they make the distinction. Not that it's better or worse, but there's a distinction there.
Oh, this could be interesting because when they talk these assets, and that was Bongino. He's there. You can tell that Bongino and Kash Patel are itching to spill their guts, and they can't yet for whatever reason. And then Bartiromo, I mean, she's asking great questions, and she's right on them. Boom, 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 as she should be. She's asking the questions that you guys would ask. She's asking the things that we want to know. These assets, informants, whatever they are, whatever they call them, in many ways, finding out about them is more important than finding out about agents. We want to know all of it. But what I'm curious about is how many people in Black Lives Matter and Antifa are working for the FBI, not as agents, but as informants' assets, right? How many assets were in MAGA gear that day? One thing I was talking to a caller the other day about this, you may have heard on the morning show, and that is the gallows that were erected in front of the Capitol building. You think some guys just pulled up in a truck and built some gallows in front of the Capitol building? I don't think so. They'd stop you from doing that. I want to know who built those gallows, how that was allowed. All right, let's get back to this. Bartiromo with Bongino and Kash Patel.
Very important distinction.
And I want to level set here. I want the American public to go back and look at what our predecessors stated to Congress under oath.
This is exciting.
That there were no FBI sources utilized in and around January 6th.
Okay, now this is great because he's talking about directors and deputy directors, the Ray era, right? What we're talking about here are people who have lied to Congress. And look what happens. You lie to Congress, you can go to prison. And we've got a 100% controlled Republican Congress. So when they release this, if they lied to Congress, there should be charges. Should be. I got to emphasize should. There should be charges coming right quick. Lying, this is an interesting thing. Because a lot of times you get people on these, I guess, would this be considered a process crime? Lying to Congress? Lying to Congress about, maybe they can't get you on what you did because of statute of limitations, but you came into congressional hearings and lied to Congress about it. Boom, we got you. You're going to jail. I'd settle for that. You got to get, when it comes to these criminals, you've got to get them and lock them up with what you can lock them up with. And you can't always get them in jail on what you want to get them in jail for. But if you can get them in prison, like Letitia James, one of the big lawfare people, I'm perfectly happy with her going to prison for mortgage fraud. At least we're going to send her to prison, right? All right, back to Patel Bongino with Bartiromo.
I'm going to leave it at that, but go play the videotape and look for this material coming to Congress.
You
will.
said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide.
Here we go.
People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work, but you promoted Stephen Jensen, the architect of the FBI's overzealous January 6th investigation.
I want the American public to realize what we did. That man was in a position where he literally fought back against the machine who was saying, we want to politicize this event. We want to politicize this event. And at the end of the day, remember, Maria, there's a chain of command here. So you...
Okay, I want to stop there. Okay, so now Bongino, I think in MAGA world, among MAGA people next to Trump, Bongino is one of the most trusted men in MAGA world. And I think, and what he said about Epstein, do you believe him? Now, he said he looked at the file, and it's what the file said. So if they did something sketchy, they didn't make a record. You don't make records of your crimes and then file them away, right? Unless you're really stupid. So just because the file says this doesn't mean that's what happened. But he's talking about what they have files of, what they have evidence of.
You can fight back your chain of command to a certain degree before they fire you. And Steve Jensen and other folks were promoted because they embody what the American public demands of FBI agents.
To get to the bottom of something like January 6th and the pipe bomber case, for example, you need three things. You need people, you need information, and you need people with information. I'll allow the public to put that together and just wait, and you'll see. Nothing we're doing, nothing is by accident.
People who are, quote unquote, supposedly on the side of reporting truthfully should take a look at this instance because they are setting up circular firing squads. And Dan and I have already told the FBI, every employee that acted appropriately, we are going to defend you to the hill, literally, no matter the consequences. But for the media who's gone through the disinformation cycle of Russiagate, of January 6th, for them to come in here and take the clickbait and write articles based...
Okay. All right. So,
I was
I'm going to play another clip.
Investigator.
I'm going to play another clip or two. But what are your thoughts so far? Let me know in the comments if you're happy with what you're hearing or not. Now, you got to remember, at the beginning, they said that the statute of limitations has expired on a lot of this. That's why they're sending things to Congress. That's why they're releasing things to the public. I mean, if statute of limitations have expired, but I find it hard to believe that it's expired on everything. I mean, statute of limitations that short, and there's been we've had nonstop lawfare, so these people haven't committed crimes all the way down the way. Does it sound to you like Bongino and Kash Patel are going to be making arrests, or just releasing information to Congress and to the public? What do you think? What does it sound like they are going to do to you? Arrest people? Or just release it to the public and to the Congress and let the court of public opinion decide? All right, here's another clip. Bongino, Kash Patel with Bartiromo today.
I was the lead Russiagate investigator for the House Intelligence Committee, and I've been on both your shows in a prior life talking about it. And I'm telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, we're running a three-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
Okay, now what he's saying there is, listen, we've got FBI work apart from this that we got to do, right? Federal law enforcement. So, okay.
So important.
I got one to add to that too, because what the director's saying is right. You got to remember, we come in the morning, There's a portfolio of 100 level 10 items. If it's a level 9, which is a pretty big freaking deal, someone else fixed it. The only thing that gets to my desk or his is a level 10. That's the entire day. Look at his schedule any given day. I'll show you the palm card I have. It is filled from 7:30 to he leaves 7 at night, 6:30 at night. It's filled all day. We just can't focus on one thing. You want New York to go boom? DC to go boom? You want an OC organization to go hack into some cyber network and crack all of Fox News' holdings? We're dealing with all that stuff too. Everything's a priority. Everything's a priority. This is one of many things we're doing. It's not an excuse. It's just reality.
Okay,
so
so he's saying that they're a little overwhelmed because they've got the regular law enforcement to do. Well, I'll tell you, I'm excited by their passion, and I'm excited the information's coming out. And I hope when they release these files, records, and information, it's more exciting than those JFK files a few weeks ago that we really haven't seen too much in. But I didn't hear arrest or indictment, which is really what the public need, and want and are demanding, right? I didn't hear arrest. I didn't hear indictment. I said sending to Congress, releasing to the public, let the public decide. I heard statute of limitations. So what do you make of that? Is this telling us that we're not going to get lawfare arrest? Now, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening to me on. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you have access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes, okay? The Brian Craig Show. It is commercial-free for those of you that are Patreon supporters. It's available exclusively on the Patreon page. Again, there's a link in the description of the program on whatever platform you're tuned in on, and you click that link, and it'll explain to you. And plus, myself and my wife, Kathy, we both post a lot of things there we post nowhere else. And also, our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode of the program. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, David, Laura, Rob, and SFjr. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thanks so much for your support. My name is Brian Craig. You're listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be right back.
True warriors don't follow trends. They forge legacies. At TacticalVikingBrand.com, they believe warriors are built, not born. Tactical Viking was inspired by the ferocity of Norse legends and the precision of modern fighters. Tactical fighting is more than just a brand. It's a way of life. They create apparel for those just like you who live by strength, resilience, and honor. Every battle-worn design tells a story of warriors who refuse to surrender. When you wear Tactical Viking, you're not just wearing clothing, you're wearing a legacy. Everything is a tribute to the warriors who gave everything so we could carry the shield forward. The burial flag on our sleeve isn't just a symbol, it's a promise that we will never forget the sacrifices made before us. Join the Brotherhood, forge your legacy, stand strong, stay ready, no surrender. Visit TacticalVikingBrand.com right now and view the inventory. You will be impressed, and use the code TACTICAL10 to save 10% off your purchase. TacticalVikingBrand.com. Forge your legacy. Wear the warrior's spirit. Impressions are crucial. Your business deserves a website that stands out. With nearly 20 years of experience, ProWeaver is your trusted partner for professional custom design websites that are built to elevate your brand. ProWeaver doesn't use generic templates, just fully responsive, user-friendly custom websites that are tailored to you and the needs of your business. And the best part, ProWeaver delivers covers in just 3 to 5 days. That's lightning speed compared to competitors who take weeks. ProWeaver handles everything for you. Logo design to e-commerce solutions, SEO, and social media setup. They'll help you launch, grow, and dominate online, all at an affordable price. Don't wait. Get your custom website right now. Visit ProWeaver.com or call them directly toll-free 877-216-0852. 877-216-0852. ProWeaver.com. Affordable, dependable, fast. They tell you to be strong and hide your pain. But what if the truth is, strength begins when you stop hiding? Author Geraldine will take you on a powerful journey through the real battles of mental health, through darkness, through hope, and into healing. In the book, You Are Not the Rain, available on Amazon. Through intimate and honest stories, the author shows how therapy, medication, and support networks can transform lives, and how empathy can change the world. You Are Not the Rain is a guide, a light, and a reminder that behind every struggle is a soul worth fighting for. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are not the rain. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and as an audiobook on Google Books, Storytel, and other online booksellers. You Are Not the Rain, from author Geraldine. Read it and help create a world where understanding wins.
J.D. Vance is absolutely amazing. You don't go from being a hillbilly to being vice president of the United States and not have a lot of smarts, right? He's very smart. And I really enjoy watching him go back and forth with people like he did with Zelensky in the Oval Office. That was absolutely amazing. And he did an interview here recently, and I want to talk about this because it's very important. These deportations that are going on are a great thing. And I've talked to people about this many times, and the left just don't understand this, that what's been going on at the southern border is a slave trade for all different types of work. Sometimes it's construction work, sometimes it's agriculture, sometimes it's sex work, sometimes it's working in a hotel or in a kitchen, in a restaurant, who knows what it is. But it's a slave trade. Now, they're paid very low wages. Some of them are taken care of by the government, but it's still a slave passage, and it's been shut down. And it's amazing to me that liberals, they're so upset about President Trump doing something that's just absolutely amazing. He shut down a slave passage when he shut down the southern border. Doesn't get credit for doing that. He should win a Nobel Prize just for that. But they openly talk about all these jobs that the illegals do that they're not going to be here to do anymore. And they think that when they say these stupid things, that it means something to people. I want to play, this is JD with this idiot Trump derangement syndrome suffering reporter. Listen.
Is a housing crisis, is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
I think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large portion are undocumented.
Okay, now let me stop there. Now, this is, these reporters and Hollywood people, they talk about this. Who's going to do all the construction work? If these people were coming after their jobs, they'd be upset. I mean, you can't get on a movie set or a TV set in this country without a union card to do anything, even to pick up, trash off the floor of the soundstage. You got to be a member of a union. So the illegals aren't threatening their jobs, so they don't care, right? But, construction jobs, the illegals that are taking construction jobs, a lot of them, a huge percentage of them, are skilled labor, carpenters, electricians, people like that, skilled labor that Americans do the job, but they don't get the job because they can get the illegal to do it for a lot less. But with these snooty, self-important liberals like this idiot here that's talking to Vice President J.D. Vance, they're snobs, right? And because they're snobs, they think that building houses is some type of low-class, low-skilled, menial work. And it's not. These are very highly skilled jobs that Americans aren't getting the jobs because the illegals have been taking them. But she's very concerned.
I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large portion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s, when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses. But of course they did.
Yeah.
And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu, the assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes. I think, again,
the country is much bigger.
The
need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of
bigger. The need is bigger than it was during the baby boom after the Second World War. I don't think so.
Legal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
This is amazing to me. That work in a critical part of the economy. They're taking jobs away from a critical part of the economy that are high-paying, high-skilled jobs from Americans or legal immigrants in the country. Like I was talking about the electricians, plumbers, people like that, carpenters. I can't do any of that. I mean, I could change an outlet in my house, but that's about it. I'm not doing any serious electrical work. I'm not doing carpentry work, right? And most people, it's a highly skilled job, not some meaning. Let me tell you, it takes more skills to do what a construction worker does when it comes to building a house than this liberal idiot with her microphone.
Well, I think that what you would do is you would take, let's say, for example, the 7 million prime age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime age who have dropped out of the labor force.
That's right.
You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market. This is, I think,
to work in construction?
Of course.
To work in construction? To work in construction? It's like beneath Americans. See what I mean about the slave? The liberals view the illegals as a slave labor force, doing all the menial work that they don't want to be bothered with.
Into the American labor market. This is, I think,
to work in construction?
Of course you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people who
unemployment rate, Lulu, this is important.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military. They're parents. They're sick. They're old. They might not want to work in construction.
The unemployment rate is...
A lot of people don't go into these highly skilled professions because illegals take the jobs. So they pay too little because of the illegals hanging out in front of the Home Depot or Lowe's or something.
Does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society, is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages. They won't do those jobs for non-living wages. But people will do those jobs. They will just do those jobs at certain wages. And think about this from the perspective of an American company, okay?
I mean, Jade, he's great, isn't he? He has cleaned her clock. And she's too stupid and too arrogant to even realize it. But, you know, one of the big problems we have in this country, and we've had it for a long time, is that liberals have always said they take jobs, they do jobs that Americans don't want to do. And Rush Limbaugh, the late, great Rush, he used to always say, they take jobs that Americans used to not want to do. And I remember at the time when Rush came up with that cool phrase, they were talking about farm work. And it's not farm work. It is highly skilled jobs. And it's not just highly skilled jobs on construction sites. Look at how racist these liberals are and how they look at the illegals, right? They say we're racist towards the illegals, right? But they're the ones that have all these terrible negative stereotypes about them. They do these menial jobs. But they take jobs in every sector, okay? Every single sector, right? In the restaurant industry. I mean, look what's going on right now in the Big Beautiful Bill, right? The Big Beautiful Bill, we're going to get no tax on tips, right? No tax on tips. That means everyone in the food service industry that's like, you know, works in restaurants that serves customers, bartenders, waiters, and waitresses, that they're going to get a major, major raise because no tax on tips. No tax on tips. And that's the majority of what they earn, right? Because the hourly wage for people to work in food service that are tip workers is very low. I don't know what the minimum wage is right now in Florida. I know it varies state to state, but it's low. Most of the money they earn are from the tips of their customers. So not only are they going to get a massive raise, it's going to be a massive raise to millions of workers all over the country. All of a sudden, a lot of people who don't become waiters, waitresses, or bartenders are like, wow, they make a lot of money now. There's no tax on the tips. How long has it been since you've seen an advertisement for a bartending school? I used to see advertisements for bartending schools all the time. You don't see those like you used to. But if there's no tax on tips for bartenders, oh boy, they'll jump on that. And, talking about these construction workers, I used to see all the time vocational school ads everywhere, not just on television, but everywhere. And you don't see those so much anymore either, do you? Because a lot of those vocational jobs have been taken over by illegals, jobs like air conditioning repair, and a lot of the things you learn to work on a job site, building houses, electrician and carpentry and stuff, you learn in vocational school, plumbing. And those jobs are being taken by illegals in such large numbers because of this huge illegal immigration wave that Obama, and then Obama again during the Biden regime, had going on, over 25 million illegals here. People don't bother to go to vocational schools like they used to because you can't earn enough money in those professions because of the illegals bringing the wages down. And these liberals, Trump is, they don't get it. Trump is changing everything. Everything in our country is being changed by President Trump, and they just don't get it. Now, I was talking on YouTube over the weekend, and some of you may have seen this, and I want to talk about it here on the podcast. It's about Comey, who did not get arrested when he was hauled in for questioning by the FBI, okay? And I'm sorry, by the Secret Service. He was not hauled in by the FBI. He was hauled in by the Secret Service and released by the Secret Service. But they actually went and picked him up and brought him in. And I was calling this the Comey plot. And a lot of people in my YouTube live stream, when I talked about this over the weekend, agreed with this. In fact, more people agreed with this scenario that I'm about to lay out than disagreed with it by far. I mean, it was like 90% of people agreed with what I'm about to tell you because, Comey should be in a jail cell right now. He should have been arrested on Friday, but he wasn't. So what happened? Well, a couple of things here. Just because he's not been arrested doesn't mean he's never going to be. And he's certainly one of the leaders in the lawfare movement. And, of course, I'm talking about that meme he did with the seashells, okay? And that should have gotten him arrested. It really should have. He should be in a jail cell right now. There's no question. However, he wasn't. So what's going on here? Well, the question I asked people first was this. Did Comey want to get arrested? And I think that he did. Now, if Comey would have been arrested on Friday and was sitting in a jail cell over the weekend waiting a Monday morning arraignment, what would have happened in this country? Because if he was arrested and charged, that would eventually lead to a trial. And I'll tell you what would happen. The media would have meltdowns over this, as would the Democrats, and it would effectively shut down the government. They would create, now I know it's okay for them to arrest Trump multiple times with no crimes. It's okay for them to sue Trump, right, and everything that Trump went through. And there was no outrage, okay? But the media, the Democrats, and the never-Trumpers would call it a constitutional crisis. Lawfare would be used, Trump using lawfare, everything. And it would have shut down the government. I'm telling you, it would have shut down the government. And President Trump has the biggest mandate of any president in my lifetime. FDR had a big mandate when he came into his first term because of the Great Depression. He had the New Deal. He had a big mandate. That's when the 100-day thing started because he did almost the entire New Deal in the first 100 days of his first 4 terms that he was elected to. He died in the 4th early on, but FDR. So he had a mandate. But Trump has a mandate now, too, and he's getting a lot done. A lot done. A lot. I don't have to go through it. You guys know what he's getting done. This Mideast trip was amazing. Brought $3 trillion of business from the Middle East into the United States. I've never seen a president do anything like this. The big, beautiful bill will pass, and it was about to pass. But The never Trumpers, the deep state, the Washington insiders, what Tucker Carlson calls the permanent Washington class, when Trump shut down when Trump shut down USAID after Doge exposed USAID, these people got their money cut off. That's where all their money was coming from, their payoffs, their corruption, and everything else. And it's been a while now, right? Been a couple months. These people are struggling to pay their mortgages, their car payments, their kids and extended family mortgages and car payments, credit card bills, and everything else. The deep state, the permanent Washington class, are going through personal financial crisis after financial crisis that we're not aware of openly because USAID money is not coming to them anymore. And it's been going on for a couple months, and they're in a panic mode, and they're getting desperate. And what I was asking people over the weekend in my YouTube live chat, and you guys can comment on this, and I think that there's a very good chance that this is what was going on, that Comey wanted to get arrested to stop the Trump agenda. They're always plotting against Trump. They never will stop plotting against President Trump. We know this. I mean, this is just something we accept. They'll never stop going after Trump. They're going to go after Trump from now until doomsday. That's just something we accept. And an arrest of Comey, of which he would have been out on bail, would have shut down the government. It very well could have derailed even the big, beautiful bill and any other future legislation. And I was wondering, these fake MAGA rhino Republicans that wouldn't support the big, beautiful bill the other day, that happened at the same time this thing started happening with Comey, was there some coordination there? So was the Comey incident with the meme and everything a plot for him to get arrested and to shut down the mandate that Trump has? I'm not saying that it would have, but I'm asking you if you think they were trying to do that or not. And it could have been an issue that the Democrats were running on in the midterms. So there's a lot of desperation going on with these permanent Washington class people because they got their money cut off with USAID getting shut down. And it's not just them, it's their whole extended family. Their kids and grandkids and everything else are living off of this corruption, and the money's not coming in now. So how are they paying their bills? How are they living the lifestyles that they've become accustomed to? It's got to be a major struggle for these people, and I would not be surprised if we see a wave of Northern Virginia foreclosures and repossessions of cars going on. Right now, it could already be happening or will be happening soon. So when people get their money cut off like this, they get desperate and do stupid things. There's also another possibility. I got to remember, the head of the Secret Service, which is who determined this, we got two people involved who, without question, we know are loyal to President Trump. The head of the Secret Service is the guy that was on stage in Butler when the Never-Trumpers shot him. And the Secret Service is under the Department of Homeland Security, which is Kristi Noem. So I know a lot of people are blaming Pam Bondi for Comey not getting arrested, but this did not go to the Justice Department. This was handled by the Secret Service, which is part of Homeland Security. So they made the decision not to arrest Comey, and they could have, and they didn't. So another possibility, and you guys let me know in the comments on whatever platform you're listening to the program on, if you think any of these things are possible or not, and give me your alternative theories. I'm open to them. But is it not possible that they let Comey go so that they could watch him and monitor him? That they use this incident to get warrants on him and are monitoring his movements, his electronic communications, his phone conversations, him and his family? I would not be surprised if they use this, they released him and they use this to do surveillance. And a lot of people may say, well, he's FBI, he was FBI director. Comey is an insane person. You could see it in his face. He is not a normal person. He is completely insane and arrogant. And he thinks he's smarter and better than all the people that are running the country under President Trump. He would not give them the credit of doing surveillance on him. And people like this that are psychotic, and I do believe he's psychotic. He's completely insane. There's no, I don't use that just as an expression. When I say that he's crazy, that he's psychotic, I believe he actually is, okay, severely. When you have that level of mental illness, you're not the kind of person that's not going to do something electronically or on the phone communicating with your co-conspirators about it. At some point, he will. So they very well may have let him go so that they can do surveillance on him. Comey, let me know what you think in the comments. Either way about that and your alternative theories. Or did they just drop the ball and let him get away? I just find that hard to believe because these are the people that are in charge of all of these agencies. And this was Homeland Security and Secret Service. Kristi Noem, the head of Secret Service, are incredibly loyal to President Trump. They would not let somebody just walk like this. And I keep forgetting the name of the head of the Secret Service, the guy that was on stage with President Trump when he got shot. If you remember, he's the one that gave the badge to the little boy who survived brain cancer at the State of the Union. Remember, he gave him a hug? Now, I'd like to tell you guys about Mike Lindell and the incredible specials at MyPillow.com. And, you can use my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, at both MyPillow.com and Mike Lindell's MyStore.com, by the way. You can use my promo code on all the specials. The Mike Lindell My Pillow energy drink is incredible. I have it. It's good. Someone asked me this morning what my favorite flavor is because it comes in 3, green apple, lemonade, and blueberry. My favorite is green apple. But I've always been a green apple fan. I love green apple Jolly Ranchers. Okay? I love apple martinis, appletinis, and I like apple. I like sour, and things like this. The green apple's my favorite. And I've had every energy drink that I think is available in the United States, and I've never had one like Mike Lindell's energy drink, which, by the way, you can save up to 30% off with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, and you can get a variety pack. You don't have to get one flavor. You can get them all. But what I noticed about it, it has no caffeine and no sugar in it. And they taste great, all 3 flavors. That I drank it, and then just a little while went by, and all of a sudden I realized I was doing all this stuff around the house. It was on the weekend. And boom, the energy just came, and it felt natural. And there was no crash after because there's no sugar or caffeine. They're spectacular. So my favorite is the green apple, but they're all great, and I have all of them in the fridge, not just the green apple. So you can save up to 30% off with my promo code Kane at checkout at MyPillow.com. And, of course, there's great gifts for Father's Day at MyPillow.com. Father's Day's coming up. The Mike Lindell cross is 20% off. The same one that Mike Lindell himself wears. You see him with it on TV. You can get that for Dad. The MyPillow slippers are $90 off with my promo code Kane, and they have big and wide sizes for bigger guys. There's not a dad out there that wouldn't like the MyPillow slippers or even a MyPillow, where there's huge discounts on those as well. So do your Father's Day shopping at MyPillow.com, and be sure to use my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Mike Lindell also, in the clearance section, has pajamas. You can get Dad pajamas or even pajama pants and sweatpants. There's all kinds of great things for Father's Day. Do your Father's Day shopping with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, at MyPillow.com. All right, we're going to take our second break. I'm Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be right back.
It's hurricane season, and if you have a wet spot on your ceiling, you have a leak in your roof. When we had a leak in our roof at the Kane household, we called Tom Laporta. He's the best in the business. Remember, small leaks turn into medium leaks, and medium leaks turn into big problems. Call licensed contractor Tom Laporta for a free roof inspection. 954-604-4602. And tell them Steve Kane sent you.
This is Dr. Philip Appleton. I'm a chiropractic physician. I've seen thousands and thousands of patients in my career. I've been a chiropractic physician here in Pompano Beach for 40 years. We're open 6 days a week. If you have sciatica, you have bursitis, you have tendonitis, you're tired of taking the pills, the drugs, the injections, and you heard that you have to live with it, well, there's a lot of times you don't have to live with it. I've had great success with helping people. My testimonials are marvelous with patients. They love the treatment because no injections, there's no medication, there's no surgery, there's none of that. It's strictly either the laser or the acupuncture I do or shockwave therapy I do. Open 6 days a week. Come in for the free consultation and be willing to look at you and help you.
Take advantage of that no-charge consultation with Dr. Appleton. Remember, appointments are not necessary and walk-ins are welcome even on Saturdays. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. Are you over 50 and want to feel stronger, look better, and live an active life like you did when you were younger? Then add Fit After 50 on Highway to Your Health to your podcast playlist. Fit After 50 gives you real-world advice from experts and everyday people just like you. Whether it's fitness, nutrition, or disease prevention, Fit After 50 host Keith and Rob bring you tips, strategies, and the motivation you need to take charge of your health. On Fit After 50, there's no gimmicks, no shortcuts, just science-backed actionable strategies and real talk to help you stay fit, feel good, and thrive at any age. Listen to Fit After 50 on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and iHeartRadio. Subscribe today and take your first step towards a healthier, stronger, and more energized life.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll let people know this that listen on the other platforms, right? Because remember, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. If they have podcast, Brian Craig Show podcast is on it. Just search the Brian Craig Show podcast. But this is the inaugural video podcast that I'm doing for the Brian Craig Show podcast. So if you watch on YouTube, you get the video, you get to see the video of me, you get to see me. Because I've been doing an audio podcast all this time, right? I do the morning show live, do a lot of vlogging and other things, live streams on YouTube all the time. But the podcast, I've kept an audio podcast, and this is the first time I'm doing it as a video podcast. And that's how I plan on doing it moving forward, hopefully. This is the first one. So if you watch on YouTube, Brian Craig Show on YouTube, you get the video podcast, not just the audio. But you still get all the audio and everything on all the podcast platforms, guys. Don't worry about that. So you get to see me and the video and the articles that I'm going over and talking about on the program. I just wanted to play this last clip. I meant to play this in the last segment when I was talking about why did they let Comey go? What was going on here? Why did the Secret Service do this? Why Kristi Noem could have ordered the Secret Service to arrest him. She didn't. And this was President Trump Friday talking about the Comey shell incident, as I'll call it, Comey-gate.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination.
Yep.
And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And
oh, yeah.
He did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and
That's
all
right.
this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he
Well, he
wasn't
apologized
calling
because
for
he was
violence.
hit.
But
look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen? What do you
I
want to see happen?
don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing, and when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop, and if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency, but I'm going to let them make that decision.
Okay,
exactly.
now since then we know it was Homeland Security and Secret Service, because that was Friday right after it happened, okay? And I just don't, and I know that Kristi Noem agrees with President Trump on that, so I just don't believe that Kristi Noem let him get away. I think that there's a very, very good chance that they let him go so they could do surveillance to see who he talks to. And this incident, because now they got like an actual crime he did, right? And we've known he's done crime. We know he's a dirty cop, like the president said, Comey. But knowing it is different than having evidence to go to a judge with. So now they did this thing with the shells, and we know Comey put the shells out there and did all that. Now they can go to a judge, maybe a FISA judge, who knows? But they can go to a federal judge, FISA judge or non-FISA, and get a warrant to do surveillance on Comey now because he did something. He committed a big crime that could land you in prison for 5 years. And it seems to me, if that's what they did, that makes a lot of sense. I just find it hard to believe that the Trump administration has said, oh, we're going to let Comey go. There's a reason why they didn't arrest him. And I have to believe, because I trust in Trump, I trust in the people that he's hired, I have to believe that not only is there a reason that they let Comey go, it's a good reason that if all were revealed, you and I, who are MAGA, would agree with. I always trust in Trump. Now, and by the way, trusting in Trump means you got to trust the people underneath him unless he gets rid of them, okay? That's what it means to trust in Trump. I saw an article this morning that the murder rate in Denver, Colorado is down 60% since the deportation started, 60%. And we know that the illegal gangs were running rapid through Colorado, and that's all because of Trump. And the Mandalorian, that Pedro Pascal is promoting a movie, and with Joaquin Phoenix, and he decided to, and he's got a movie. He's got this Fantastic Four movie coming out, which I have no interest in seeing that Fantastic Four movie. I'm not going to see it. And I'll tell you what, The Mandalorian, when The Mandalorian went downhill, when The Mandalorian first came out, the Star Wars show with the Baby Yoda, I was into it, and it was very popular. And you know when it went downhill? When The Mandalorian took his helmet off and we saw Pedro Pascal, because no one really knew who he was. He'd been around, but he wasn't famous yet. He got famous because of The Mandalorian. And I remember on social media, women were like having freakouts. They're like, when he took the helmet off, he wasn't like, they were hoping he was like some hot guy under there, and it was Pedro Pascal. But he's doing like this Snow White idiot actress was doing, right? She had this big movie coming out, Snow White. She goes out there and with all this woke garbage and destroyed the movie. And here's Pedro Pascal. He's got this Fantastic Four movie coming out. And he decided to go woke on immigration. And Joaquin Phoenix is sitting next to him. And Joaquin Phoenix, you could tell, he's like, what is this guy doing? Why is he talking about politics sitting next to me? Listen, Pedro Pascal.
I want people to be safe and to be protected. And
yeah, well, that's why President Trump's doing the deportation, so we can protect Americans from being raped and murdered and killed by illegal 15-year-olds who were driving 90 miles an hour down the street at a 45 and killing 26-year-old women. The murder rate is down 60% in Denver. That's how you make people safer, Mandalorian, Mando.
I want people to be safe and to be protected.
Ugh.
And I want very much to live on the right side of history. And I'm an immigrant. My parents are refugees from Chile. I myself was
Chile. Yeah, let's see if you can get on the set of the Fantastic Four without a union card. If you're any undocumented illegals on the set of The Mandalorian? Any undocumented illegals on the set of the Fantastic Four or that HBO show? What was that, The Last of Us from the video game? Pedro Pascal? Or is everyone a well-documented card-carrying union member?
As a refugee, we fled a dictatorship, and I was privileged enough to grow up in the U.S. and after asylum in Denmark, and if it weren't for that, I don't know what would have happened to us. And so I stand by those protections always.
Yeah. Well, that's not going to do too good for the Fantastic Four. These studios, because they're so woke, they're stupid. When you got something coming out, you don't go out there and alienate the majority of the people of the country, okay? Which is what he's doing, just like that idiot Snow White did. And then, he was, this guy, Pedro Pascal here, is so arrogant and so liberal. Not only did he do that, okay, this is at the Cannes Film Festival. Joaquin Phoenix and him are there. It's a black tie event. They're in, Joaquin Phoenix is waving to the crowd, and Pedro Pascal, he reaches over and puts River Phoenix was his brother. He goes down, puts down Joaquin Phoenix's arm because he's just waving, but he doesn't want people to think that he's giving the Sieg Heil. I mean, and he's very arrogant about it. And Joaquin Phoenix is like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" This guy, he is most definitely in woke wonderland. Now, there is a great story here about the Obamas. Malia, one of the Obama daughters, she plagiarized an ad that she directed for Nike. And she stole it from a movie that went to Sundance, so it's well known. Listen to this. This is the daily. This is everywhere today. She's got her first directing thing here, and she plagiarized it, and everybody knows it. And they're calling her out on it, Malia Obama. Listen, this is in the Daily Mail. An independent filmmaker who premiered her film at Sundance is alleging that a recent Nike advertisement directed by Malia Obama is shockingly similar to her work. Natalie Harris, age 27, shared stills from her film Grace alongside shots from Malia's Nike commercial. And it depicts similar images of girls playing patty cake on a stoop. And when you watch them back to back, there's no question that not only is it the same scenes, but the way the shots are filmed, it's the exact same thing. And I know a lot of people may say, oh, who cares about Malia Obama? It's not at the top of my list of concerns, but it goes to the arrogance of the people that have been running this country. You know, Malia Obama, she's obviously a no talent who can't do something creative on her own, so she had to steal somebody else's work and try to pass it off as her own. It shows the arrogance. She knows, because she's Malia Obama, that people are going to take note of what she's doing, right? Anything she does is going to get a lot of publicity. So she does this ad. She knows everyone's going to be talking about this ad, and she still went out and plagiarized. I mean, you know, unless she's trying to make her parents look stupid. But, you know, the Obamas, when they've gotten off script between Malia Obama and Michelle's podcast, this idea that they've been promoting for so long, that the Obamas were popular people. Whatever popularity they had, when people see what they're really like, plagiarism, like Malia did, she's just a thief. That's stealing someone else's work. And the real personality of Michelle that people are seeing on her podcast, but oh my goodness, she is nothing like you would. Now, I never liked Michelle Obama, but even people that do like her or thought they liked her are turned off by seeing what her personality is really like. You know, in the past, Michelle Obama talked for a few minutes here, a couple sentences there. You didn't see her, and when she was speaking, it was a speech that was written by a speechwriter. And now that people are hearing Michelle Obama like unplugged on her own and hearing her real personality, and her brother being a weirdo doesn't help, people are turned off by her. And it cracks me up, because I hear, oh yes, if Michelle ran against Trump, he'd be done and all this. And no. Run Michelle in 2028, okay? Run her. Please run Michelle Obama in 2028, and have her daughter Malia do the campaign ad, so maybe she can steal somebody else's ads and share it. Now, this is amazing. I saw this on Rob Schmidt on Newsmax, this incredible story that this woman told of how President Trump saved her life years ago. And, you know, they portray President Trump as being all these things that he's not. A nasty person, you know, an egomaniac, insecure, racist. None of these things are true. In fact, this woman whose life he shared, she's a black woman. And you're not going to see this on any of the mainstream media, because they don't want to portray President Trump as he really is. They want to portray him as someone that's got all these isms after him, right? Racism, you know, ethnocentrism, you know, all these things. But this is this woman telling the story of how President Trump saved her life.
Trump saved my life, literally. My dad and my mom passed at the same time. I was in a bad place. I was going towards the Brooklyn Bridge. Don't ask me why, but I was. Donald Trump was standing on 97th Street in Broadway. He was at a friend's birthday party. And when he saw me coming past, I was hysterical in tears. And he gently grabbed my arm. He was like, whoa, wait a minute, are you okay? And he said, well, I don't know what you're gonna do right now, but whatever it is, forget about it. Take it out of your head. Your mom and dad wouldn't want that. And he talked to me till I forgot all about what I was gonna do. So he said, let me pray for you. So when I went to get my keys out of my pocket, and I opened my hand, he had placed a folded up, real small, folded up $100 bill in my hand. Wow. I framed it, literally, and this is a true story. He saved my life. Yeah, he did. So anybody that has anything bad to say about Trump, indebted because he's a good man.
Tish James. And I want to thank Rob Schmidt for sharing that, because that is just an amazing story. And all these years later, you can see she's brought to tears, and strong defender. What president do you know other than Trump who's saved someone's life like this, and they've been out there talking about it? The only one I know of would be JFK, and maybe the PT-109 guys. I wanted to talk about something just for a second. I believe the same people that killed Kennedy shot Trump and Butler and tried to do it again at the golf course. And I think you guys that are MAGA believe that too. And I'm rereading a book about President Kennedy that I read years ago when it first came out. I don't remember how many years it's been, but I read the book years ago when it first came out, 10 years ago, maybe more. I don't remember. And I don't keep a lot of books. And a lot of people like to keep, they read a book and they like to keep books all over the house and impress people with how well read they are. I only keep books that I think I might read again, or are so important, like they have information in that are so important that, you want to keep it because, the book's so good that, the liberal overlords may make it difficult to find that book. And one of them is this book I read years ago on President Kennedy. It's such a great biography of his. It's called An Unfinished Life. An Unfinished Life. It's a biography of President Kennedy. Good title. And when I read this book years ago, I don't read a lot of presidential biographies, but this one moved me. The other one that I liked a lot, there's one on Abraham Lincoln called Malice Towards None, which is a great biography of Lincoln's entire life. But anyway, I started rereading this Kennedy book, JFK book, An Unfinished Life. And the reason I did is the other day, my wife and I, we watched John F. Kennedy and PT-109 with Cliff Robertson playing President Kennedy. And, I said, let me see how accurate this movie is. Let me go to this book I've kept in my closet all these years. And I opened it up and started reading the portion of it about the PT-109 incident. And Kennedy in World War II, while he was in the Navy and before, hated General MacArthur and was very vocal in his criticism throughout his life, even after the war, criticizing General MacArthur. And what Kennedy, and this, I'll tell you why this is relevant. Kennedy hated MacArthur, and I know some people will tell me, and it's true, MacArthur was a Republican, but that's not why he hated him. It didn't help, okay? I'm sure it didn't help, but that's not why JFK hated MacArthur. He did not agree with the island hopping campaign. He thought the in the Pacific in the Second World War, which I'm not going. If you don't know what it is, do some Googling. I don't want to get bogged down talking about the details of what that was, but President Kennedy thought that out of ego, General MacArthur just sacrificed so many young American lives. And he thought there should have been a different strategy of skipping some of these islands and fighting the war in another way. Now, whether or not that, what MacArthur did, I've wondered about that too. Some of the island hopping, some of these islands are so tiny, they're barely an island, right? It's just like some sand in the middle of the ocean. And were these individual island fights really necessary? Could they have gone around, And I don't know. Hindsight is 20/20. However, President Kennedy was giving these criticisms back then during the war, before he was in the Navy, and then for the rest of his life. And his main criticism was the needless sacrifice of young American men fighting in these islands instead of doing it another way. And when I read all these things and the different things that President Kennedy had said about that in the Second World War, and one of the things that haunted Kennedy his whole life, he lost 2 men on the PT boat when it was hit by the Japanese destroyer. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. has talked a lot about how both his father and his uncle were assassinated because of their opposition to the war in Vietnam. And he said his dad was running on with total withdrawal from Vietnam. They killed him, Nixon won, and there was a major escalation. He said his uncle, President Kennedy, was going to Vietnam hadn't fully heated up when Kennedy, we had some advisors there, but Kennedy was going to withdraw all U.S. forces that were there in Vietnam, which were small at the time, but withdraw them all. Kennedy gets assassinated, Johnson's in, and boom. The major escalation of the Vietnam War as we see it in history happened. And I've never been more sure about that than after reading how upset President Kennedy was at how many young men died because of the island hopping and his anger towards MacArthur for fighting the war in that way as opposed to... So I have no doubt in my mind that Bobby Kennedy's theory is true. Military-industrial complex, our own government killed Kennedy. I have no doubts about that. And it's the same people that were behind the assassination attempt on our president in Butler, our current president. I mean, there's no getting around it. And you look at the great presidents. Obviously, Washington is different, but you have Lincoln, you have Kennedy, and you have President Trump, and these three guys, taking on the establishment. And the Democrat establishment in many ways, because the Democrats were the ones that escalated the Vietnam War. Lincoln was opposing the Democrats and freeing the slaves, and he was killed by a Democrat. And Kennedy was, Oswald was a leftist, a commie, And, of course, the never-Trumper shot Trump in Butler. No, pretty sad. It's the Brian Craig Show. My name is Brian Craig. Thanks for tuning in. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll talk next time.